The Mayor Report with Gary Sauls. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Sean.
That was my long pregnant pause. How are you doing?
I'm okay. You?
Good. An excellent day. I know we do have something important to talk about community-wise.
Let's go into the stuff that we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to go through my list.
Okay, so the topic of today was the kiosks that were painted black, what it represents, and where people are at and how they're feeling. So a couple of questions here for you. I formulated these questions based on the comments that I've read, and I took the questions, or at least what I perceived to be the question, and then just sort of reworked it.
Yep.
So that it had a point, or at least I think it has a point. So one, why were the kiosks painted black?
Well, it's a temporary fix for peeling and chipping paint on those kiosks, and it's not complete. There's going to be decals coming, lettering to be added, provide some contrast as well to the new panels, and updated information going in those panels for the visitors. Black was used because it's a principal color of the new wayfinding strategy. It's the color of the new entrance signs, the new banners. From our perspective, we think it looks great. It is also a great backdrop to the plants and the colors and that sort of thing that are around there.
So that was the next question. Was this part of the new wayfinding strategy and branding of the community?
Yeah, so it's rebranding, updating of those kiosks. In addition, creating new info kiosks, which are going to be down in Woodenhead Park, Centennial Park, and they're identified kind of in the wayfinding strategy that council adopted.
So who was the group that made this decision on behalf of the community?
Proposal brought forward to the staff by the chamber, working with tourism, kind of a more extensive revitalization of the community and of what was going to happen with Grizzly Plaza. So the chamber has the contract to manage and update those kiosks, which includes the new coat of paint and the decals and the lettering and that sort of thing. And it kind of, again, reflects the branding adopted and developed by the tourism and the chamber, and goes with that wayfinding strategy.
So why was there not a consult on the schematic changes?
Actually, there was consultation. So the chamber manages these kiosks. They work closely with tourism. So they had gone out to the community to get input with the wayfinding strategy. So that was all part and parcel of that whole strategy going forward. We're going to update this stuff. Was there a particular color that was talked about? I don't know. The choice was the wayfinding strategy was kind of the black and white theme going back to our heritage, and I believe that this sort of thing all fit part and parcel.
So it seems that one group can determine how the DT core looks based on their preference for sound quality. How can this be?
Well, there's actually no one group behind this. As I just mentioned, there's a consultation with the tourism group, the chamber group, the arts group. They're looking at things and saying, okay, how can we improve the amenities that we have? And so when we start talking about what's going to happen in the plaza, there will be consultation with the community. They're going to basically say, this is what we need. What would you like to see? And so from my perspective, I look at it and say, imagine if it could look better than what it already does. Pretty hard to imagine that because we are used to our iconic bears, our iconic gazebo, that sort of thing. And we look at it and, okay, how can we make this bigger? How can we accommodate things? How can we make sure that there's not curbs for people to trip over, that sort of thing? So they're working on all of that. They'll put their ideas out, and then they're going to get feedback from the community as to what the community would like to see.
So Golden had a plan, a public plan, long before they received the grant that they recently got from the province.
Right.
Why did Revelstoke do it the other way? This is what we're thinking. These are some options, so you're not totally shocked when the time comes that we're going to do a revite.
Yeah, so a couple things. It takes money and a plan or to have a strategy and a plan, that sort of thing. But also we look at things, when are the grants available? And so they were fortunate to get some RMI money, some grant money from CBT, and actually move forward with those sorts of things. Let's secure the money because it's now available, and then we'll go out to the community. And they have a couple of year process that they're going to do that before we see the end of what's going to be done.
Now, is it safe to say that moving forward, we don't know exactly how the downtown core is going to look. There will probably be maybe more than one option to choose from, etc. But that as we go into this, that those colors, the burgundy, the gold, and I believe green, those will be gone, and that we'll be moving into the shades, the black and white.
I believe so, but also we want to hear input from the community. What do you want? So just because we have a wayfinding strategy as far as our signage and moving things away, what we found was the burgundy signs and the green posts and whatnot, everything seems to fade in a period of time. I'm not saying that black's not going to fade. And so we look at that and say, what's going to be the best for the community? This wayfinding strategy was planned, and the community had given their input, and the businesses, everybody had kind of rocked on it and said, yeah, this is what we want. And so it's moving forward. So when we look at that, we want to have actual input from the community. What do you want to see? How do you want to see that downtown core? What do you think is going to look the best? And if we can at some point see some sort of artist conception of what that's going to be, then maybe we're actually going to hear from communities saying, yeah, that looks not too bad, or it's not, it's not the greatest sort of thing. So when we saw some of that sort of banter back and forth on social media, and a couple people had said, you know what, I think it looks terrible. And then from a distance, they're coming down the hill, down from CPR Hill, and they're going, oh, I take that back. When I start looking at the colors and I see the plants and the trees and everything in bloom around it, it actually looks really good. So we want to have a really robust type of engagement with the community, and hope to hear as to what people really want to see down there. Just because we've secured this funding doesn't mean that the community doesn't give input. We want to basically say, okay, these are the reasons that we want to change things so that we have a better quality entertainment and a plaza that actually works a little better in today's standards with what's going on. And so those are the reasons for doing it. Let's now hear from the community. Give us some input. See what you want. Let's hear from you.
Change is always difficult, and there was a large grouping of people, and you were around during that time, that worked hard to get that revite. They were the ones that wrote the grant, and it changed the way Revelstoke looked, which is one of the reasons why people come here to play.
Yep.
And now there's a new world order, and it's changing. There's a fear of losing what people who are still here worked really hard to create.
Yep.
And I get that, and I'm sure you've been here long enough to understand that completely. That's why I thought, well, it was just all of a sudden black, which threw people off. If it was, and I know it's up to us to be engaged, if it was maybe more present prior to reminders that it was coming, it wouldn't have been such a shock. And this is going to be my best example and analogy, and you're going to say, did you just use a home improvement reference from the 90s? But there's an episode where the boys outgrow the play set, and Jill's upset about Tim tearing it down. So Tim takes it down and he rebuilds it into a love seat swing set with the boys' names that were still carved on it from when they were kids, because it was time to move on from it, but they repurposed it to have something of value that's still connected to what it was. People worked very hard 30 odd years ago to bring Revelstoke to where we love it today. New World Order comes, and that'll happen one day too for when I'm in my 60s, and change happens, and it can be hard to let go because it connects us to who those people that maybe don't live here anymore, or maybe are not alive anymore, that were a major part of that change, had their hands in the dirt, had their hands in the bricks, that type of thing. So it's hard to imagine ripping it out and taking out some of the heart. And I think maybe if we thought of a better way to recognize those people's feelings and just the fact that this is their backyard too, how do we progress? How do we change in a little bit of a better way? And maybe, again, the communication, while it's there, maybe it could have been a little sharper.
Well, I'm not going to dispute that. And I actually hear what you're saying. I've been here a very long time, and I've seen Mackenzie Avenue being redone 3 times since I've been here. And, we kind of look at the amount of money that the communities put into our downtown core and the businesses and that sort of thing. I get that. And I remember when I was running for mayor, and the community said to me, Gary, remember where we came from. And this is all part of that, remembering where we came from. So how do we acknowledge what's been done and strategize as to what we can do with what we've got now, and how can we improve it for the future, keeping that in mind.
Gary, is there anything that you just wanted to touch base on outside of the kiosk discussion?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. Simon Hunt had sent me a message and would like me to talk a little bit about the mental health and well-being initiative called Heart Revy. So this is starting in the community, and it's going to be another initiative that is going to be on talkrevelstoke.ca to capture feedback. So it's encouraging residents to provide their thoughts and ideas as to mental health and well-being in the community. So it's just starting, and I'm just going to encourage people to register on talkrevelstoke.ca and give their input regarding mental health, and let us know how things are going with them, especially during this time of COVID. And so I think this is just a great initiative. Always in awe when part of the task force group comes forward with these great initiatives to kind of help the community in things that really they're always there, and we're just not paying any attention to them. Last week, you had asked me about funding from the provincial government, because Golden had got some funding from the provincial government for their downtown core.
Correct.
And as we were chatting just off air, definitely if you get other funding from the government or something, CBT doesn't kick in. CBT's kicked in for our downtown core. We've got some provincial government funding, and we've used that to pave the part of the Greenbelt where they had to recondition things. There's going to be new washrooms going in Woodenhead Park, so some of that funds are going to be there. And then multi-use trails, so some provincial fundings come for that as well. So I just wanted to make that aware of. Last week, talking about the Greenbelt and walking dogs off leash on the Greenbelt, we actually had a small dog that was attacked by a bigger dog and needed to be hospitalized, and got some stuff done by the vet. Just want to bring that up. Even if you're walking on the paved portion of the Greenbelt, you definitely need to have your dogs on leash. That's a bylaw. If you're in the area where it's an off leash, so you go a little further south and you're on those gravel trails and you're walking a dog, if you're seeing another dog come towards you, if you could definitely put your dog on the leash just to make sure there's no problems. I know that some dogs are friendly and they're just coming to play, but just to keep yourself safe, put your dog on till that dog moves on. And then I think everyone's going to be safe. So just encouraging people to do that. And then, Shaun...
we're rolling on the river.
There we go. We want to talk about the Columbia River and access vehicles. And, a couple of weeks ago, there was a car got down there and didn't get out. And a big, huge tractor came the next day and took it out. So this past week, I had a meeting with BC Hydro, CPR, Flinro, RCMP, and of course myself. And we had a discussion as to what's going to happen or what should happen down there. So we do know we've had kind of figured out who owns what as far as property. That is CPR property. That little road as you cross the Big Eddy Bridge and then you turn right and go into that. Oh. All that is CPR property.
Okay.
So right now at this point, we're going to put up signage, or CPR is putting up signage, no trespassing, to make people aware that it is a CPR property. And BC Hydro is going to put up some signage to make people really cognizant of the fact that water level fluctuates and it moves very quickly. Not only is the water extremely cold, it moves very fast, and the water levels rise and lower on a really quick basis. So we just want people to be aware so we don't have any incidents down there. At this point in time, if people are observing the rules and we don't have issues, then that's probably as far as it goes. If we have issues, there'll be other mitigating things that will come forward. So at this point in time, I just want people to be aware. Things are coming. There is new signage, and it'll be a phased-in approach. If we don't have any further issues, then that's probably all that we'll do at this point in time.
Okay. Well, thank you for the chat. And if you're just catching the tail end of this, you'll be able to find it on the city's Facebook page. It'll be posted a little bit later on today.
Great.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Shaun.